This is CNN Breaking News.
Breaking news tonight, tensions over the Russia investigation explode at the first big oversight hearing since Democrats took control of the House. Acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker in the hot seat denies he's interfered with Robert Mueller's probe or that he's talked to President Trump about it. Whitaker, often defiant, opened the hearing by declaring that he would not discuss his private conversations with the president to protect executive privilege. Also breaking, federal prosecutors in New York are looking into allegations by Amazon chief Jeff Bezos, who says the National Enquirer tried to blackmail and extort him. The feds want to know if the Enquirer violated an immunity deal in the investigation of hush money payments linked to the president. This hour, I'll talk with a member of the House Judiciary Committee who questioned Matt Whitaker, Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. And our correspondents and analysts are also standing by. First, let's go to our justice correspondent, Jessica Schneider. She has details on the acting attorney general's very dramatic testimony. Jessica, this was a fiery hearing.
A very heated hearing. And Wolf, this hearing highlighted the deep partisan divisions on Capitol Hill. Republicans called Whitaker's appearance unwarranted, while Democrats dug in. And tonight, after hours and hours of questioning, the committee chair, Jerrold Nadler, says he's still not satisfied and not sure he believes all of Whitaker's testimony, even after several back and forth testy exchanges. Acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker making his first appearance before the House Judiciary Committee.
This hearing is pointless. If this is the way we're going to go, then we'll have plenty of stunts. We're going to have plenty of theatrics. Bring your popcorn. I'm thinking about maybe we just set up a popcorn machine in the back, because that's what this is becoming.
And igniting a political firestorm.
It's our understanding that at least one briefing occurred in December before your decision not to recuse yourself on December 19th and Christmas Day. Is that correct?
What's the basis for that question, sir?
Yes or no?
Mr. Chairman, again, what is the basis for your question? You're saying that it is your...
Sir, I'm asking the questions. I only have 5 minutes. So please answer yes or no.
No, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to... you were asking me a question. It is your understanding. Can you tell me where you get the basis?
No, I'm not going to tell you that. I don't have time to get into that.
Whitaker, at one point, trying to cut the chairman off.
I see that your 5 minutes is up, and so I'm here voluntarily. We have agreed to 5-minute rounds, and
the committee...
I think that's a fine place to end the 5-minute rule.
The committee will end. Will come to order. I will point out that we didn't enforce the 5-minute rule on Acting Attorney General Whitaker.
Whitaker denied any conversations with the president or other White House officials about the special counsel's investigation, which Whitaker oversees, either before or after he took over the top spot at DOJ.
At no time has the White House asked for, nor have I provided, any promises or commitments concerning the special counsel's investigation or any other investigation.
It's a yes or no question. Have you communicated anything you learned in that briefing about the investigation to President Trump? Yes or no?
Mr. Chairman, as I've said earlier today in my opening remarks, I do not intend today to talk about my private conversations with the President of the United States. But to answer your question, I have not talked to the President of the United States about the special counsel's investigation.
Whitaker has come under fire for denouncing the Mueller investigation as a commentator before he joined the Justice Department, which Republicans quickly pointed out was not the reason for the hearing.
It's nothing but character assassination, harassment of our witness.
Whitaker, who said he has been fully briefed on the Mueller investigation, declined to specifically condemn the label witch hunt used by the president to describe the Russia probe.
I have not interfered with the special counsel's investigation.
Are you overseeing a witch hunt? You'd stop a witch hunt, wouldn't you?
Congressman, it would be inappropriate for me to talk about an ongoing investigation.
And Whitaker giving no specific indication how much longer the investigation will last.
We haven't received the report. Bob Mueller is going to finish his investigation when he wants to finish his investigation.
And this isn't the end of the inquiry. Committee Chairman Nadler read a list of questions he still wants written answers to, including when Whitaker was briefed on the special counsel investigation and whether Whitaker had conversations with the president after those briefings. And Nadler is once again threatening a subpoena if it is necessary to get those answers.
Very important stuff. Jessica, stick around. Shimo Prokopez is with us, our crime and justice reporter. Shimon, Whitaker specifically stated he hasn't been forced to take any action, make any decisions based on actions by Robert Mueller and his team. So what does that tell you?
So it could mean, Wolf, that any of the heavy lifting, any of the big decisions that the special counsel has had to make, certainly about whether to subpoena the president, whether or not to indict particular people, whether or not to open more investigations, have already been done, and it could signal that we could be coming to an end here, and that Whitaker came in at the end of this investigation where a lot of the investigative steps and a lot of the indictments and other things may have already happened. Most key here, everyone's been wondering about whether or not they would subpoena the president. And since that has not happened and has not been discussed, certainly it seems by Whitaker that it's unlikely that that's going to happen now. What
was the reaction for Jerry Nadler, the committee chairman, after the hearing? There was 6 hours of really dramatic back and forth.
And Chairman Nadler came right out and talked to reporters, and the first thing he said is Whitaker was arrogant. Obviously, he wasn't very happy when Whitaker quipped back to the chairman of the committee, "You have 5 minutes left." So Nadler laughed at the time, but it's clear that he wasn't pleased. He also says he wasn't pleased with Whitaker's answers. He said that he didn't give a lot of answers, but then he said he will. So obviously Nadler making good, or he may make good, on that subpoena threat. Nadler says that there were inconsistencies with Whitaker's testimony. In particular, he's really concerned with when Whitaker went to the White House numerous times in the summer of 2017 to interview for the chief of staff position for Attorney General Jeff Sessions, as well as a position on the White House counsel's team that would be this response position to the Mueller investigation. And Nadler's saying, how could you not have talked with the president or people in the White House about your feelings about the Mueller probe? So Nadler really taking issue with that, zeroing in on that, and promising to get answers about that.
What did he say about his conversations with the president involving Michael Cohen?
Yeah, he wouldn't get into that, right? He kept insisting that he's not going to talk about the conversations that he has had with the president. Why this is so important is because of the reporting that CNN has done about conversations that the president may have had with Whitaker concerning the SDNY, the investigations out of New York, and that the president was concerned, was upset over being named as individual one in the charges, being implicated by the Department of Justice in those crimes as it relates to the hush money payment. And it could be also that Whitaker really doesn't know anything that's been going on in SDNY. The SDNY has this habit of doing its own thing, and where they don't tell the Department of Justice what they're doing. So it could be that, but he certainly would not go anywhere near any conversations, Whitaker, that he has had with the president.
U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York, SDNY. Sheba, one other thing before I let you go. Roger Stone, all of a sudden the judge is threatening a gag order on Roger Stone, the president's longtime friend and associate. A gag order on Roger Stone?
Well, it's interesting. So this all started last week when he was in court, and the judge wanted to hear from both sides, the prosecutors and his attorneys. She's thinking about putting a gag order in here. But what's interesting to me, certainly, obviously, Roger Stone doesn't want his gag order. But if you've seen in the last week or so, we haven't really heard from Roger Stone. So I think he's trying to show the judge that he could behave, hoping that she doesn't gag him, because it's going to hurt him. He feels, Roger Stone, that if she places a gag order on him, he's not going to be able to fundraise off of this, right? He's out there, he's talking about how he's being treated unfairly, and part of it is to raise money for his defense. So that has certainly been in order, something that he's wanted. But the other thing that they've asked for, and I think this is also interesting, is they want a new judge. They're asking for another judge. We'll see how the judge responds to that.
If he gets a gag order and he violates that gag order, he could wind up like Manafort in jail.
Yes.
So
certainly a big
concern
indeed for him.
All right, Shimon, Jessica, guys, thank you very much. Hours before Matt Whitaker's testimony, President Trump said he thought his acting attorney general would do a good job. Let's go to our chief White House correspondent, Jim Acosta. So, Jim, do we know how Whitaker's appearance is playing with the president?
Well, if the president just arrived back here at the White House after his annual physical with the White House doctor, but officials over here at the White House were very interested in a different examination taking place up on Capitol Hill. And we're watching to see how the acting attorney general, Matt Whitaker, performed at today's hearing. Despite those fireworks that we've been seeing all day long, a White House official told me earlier this evening that they believe that the hearing went about as expected. One question in particular that they were interested in hearing over here is how Whitaker responded when asked whether he had briefed the president on the Mueller investigation. One White House official said Whitaker's denial that he had spoken with the president was consistent with what Mr. Trump has said in the past, so they felt pretty good about that answer. But as you said, Wolf, the president has said he was confident in how Whitaker was going to perform, and here's how he put it.
I would say if he did testify, he'd do very well. He's an outstanding person, a very, very fine man.
Now, Wolf, the president, just as I said, arrived here back at the White House after that physical up at Walter Reed. He did not answer reporters' questions, so he did not weigh in on how he felt Matt Whitaker handled himself today. But the feeling over here at the White House is that, I guess in medical terms, that Matt Whitaker did not do any harm when he was up on Capitol Hill earlier today, Wolf.
The physical, the White House did put out a very brief statement about the president's physical checkup. Tell us what they said.
That's right. It was not as glowing a review as we heard from Dr. Ronnie Jackson at that briefing that we saw about a year ago. But this is what the White House physician said about this examination with the president earlier today. It says, this afternoon at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, the president participated in a second periodic physical examination over the course of approximately 4 hours. This is according to the doctor. I performed and supervised the evaluation with a panel of 11 different board-certified specialists. He did not undergo any procedures requiring sedation or anesthesia. The president is very grateful for the outstanding care he received today, and he especially wants to thank all the doctors, nurses, enlisted and civilian staff who participated. While the reports and recommendations are being finalized, and that's important, Wolf, I am happy to announce the President of the United States is in very good health. And this is according to the physician there, Sean P. Conley. I am happy to announce the President of the United States is in very good health, and I anticipate he will remain so for the duration of his presidency and beyond. So almost very Dr. Ronnie Jackson-esque there in the very final sentence of that review from the White House physician Sean Conley, saying that he expects the president to remain in good health, not only for the duration of his presidency, but also beyond, which obviously, Wolf, that's the kind of review or analysis we would love to hear from any doctor for all of us. It sounds like the president, according to the White House physician, is doing just fine, Wolf.
Let's see when they release all the specifics, all the numbers, right, as they almost always do. Jim Acosta.
That's right.
Thanks very much. Jim's over at the White House. Let's hear now from one of the Democrats who questioned the acting Attorney General. We're joined by the House Judiciary Committee member, Pramila Jayapal. Thanks so much, Congresswoman, for coming in.
Thank you. Well,
so it was a dramatic 6 hours. You were there for the whole time. The acting Attorney General, he testified, and I want to be precise, that he never spoke to the president about the Mueller investigation. Do you believe him?
He was very evasive. He didn't answer. He said, I'm not going to answer that question. And then he answered the question. And I don't understand why he didn't just say no. And and there were inconsistencies. You know, he was inconsistent about his answers around that December 2017 White House meeting. He refused to answer questions around Cohen. I mean, he was incredibly difficult to watch. I will just tell you, sitting there in front of him, so disrespectful, so arrogant, telling the chairman of the Judiciary Committee that his time had expired, then telling us that we had 5 minutes to ask our questions. Every time the chairman had to direct him to answer our questions and not to, go off on his own comments, he seemed to not understand that the Judiciary Committee actually has jurisdiction and oversight, and that he is accountable to answer those questions. I think the most troubling thing was around executive privilege. I mean, Chairman Nadler had sent the questions well in advance. He told him to please determine which questions the president wanted to exert executive privilege around. And at the beginning of the hearing, he started by saying, I will be using executive privilege here. So there were many things that were just deeply troubling. Now, the guy's going to be gone in a week. And we really wanted to try to get information from him about the Mueller investigation, his communications.
Was it a waste of time, the hearing?
I don't think it was a waste of time because the guy is the acting Attorney General. I mean, this is the acting Attorney General. I think he showed over and over again that he should not be the acting Attorney General. He didn't know the answers to most of the questions, even if they weren't about Mueller. He couldn't answer Cedric Richmond's questions.
Your Democratic colleague, Steve Cohen of Tennessee, he said he thinks Whitaker is lying about several of these points, including that he never discussed any of the Mueller probe with the President of the United States. That would be a crime if he's under oath lying before your committee. Do you think Whitaker perjured himself today?
I don't know, but it was very difficult to fully believe him because he did not come across as truthful. So if I had to guess, I would say that he's hiding something. Did he have a conversation and not tell us about it? Did he, sort of Did he instruct somebody else to have a conversation? He could answer the question that he didn't have a conversation, but did somebody else? Did he tell information to somebody else? So that was the sense I got, too, is that he wasn't truthful.
As a private citizen, he'll be a private citizen after next week when Bill Barr is sworn in as the new Attorney General. Do you think Jerry Nadler and your House Judiciary Committee should subpoena Whitaker to come back as a private citizen and do another deposition, do another round of Q&A?
If he doesn't answer these questions, then he will. But I think we have given him the opportunity over and over again to answer the question.
One of the most dramatic moments was an exchange you had, Congresswoman, with Whitaker on the Justice Department's so-called zero tolerance policy that has led to the separation of children from their moms and dads. And I want to play a little bit of the exchange you had.
So these parents were in your custody, your attorneys are prosecuting them, and your department was not tracking parents who were separated from their children. Do you know what kind of damage has been done to children and families across this country? Children who will never get to see their parents again. Do you understand the magnitude of that?
I understand that the policy of zero tolerance.
What did you think?
I was so furious. This is the acting Attorney General of the United States, and he did not know, first of all, he did not know the information. He said he didn't know about the memo before this piece. I asked him if he knew about this leaked memo that Senator Merkley had shown us that said that the Department of Justice had been told that they had to give advance notice to all these different departments in order to coordinate this. Wolf, we still don't know how many thousands of children were separated from their parents. I have been in there and I talked to them. I was completely furious with him. These are his prosecutors. They're not tracking these children. And he has nothing to say to me. And at the end, he tried to, I thought in a very condescending way, say, I know you're passionate about this issue. This is not about my passion. This is about the children who have been separated and will never see their parents again.
But even if they're never going to see, that's awful. But even if a child who's 3 or 4 or 5 years old is separated from a mother or a father for a month or 2 months and eventually reunited, the trauma they go through during that period at night, they call out for their mommy or their daddy and they don't see him. That's an awful situation. You would have thought he would have at least said to you, our hearts go out, we're trying to do the best. We didn't hear any of that.
No, in fact, he tried to deny that there was family separation, which has been the consistent, Kristen Nielsen also tried to deny that to me. That's gotten 4 Pinocchios from the Washington Post. This was family separation done by this administration, and children, exactly like you said, couple months away from their parents, some babies that had been taken from their mother's breasts, and the parents who didn't know where their children were. I mean, the trauma is tremendous, and I watched some of these parents ultimately being reunited with their children, and they were sobbing like there was no tomorrow. Some of the children didn't want to go to their parents because they thought that their mothers had abandoned them.
Yeah.
I just can't, I can't imagine.
It was so heartbreaking to see all of that, and fortunately some of that still exists. Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, thanks so much for coming in. Thanks for raising that issue as well.
Thank you so much, Wolf.